All right, welcome to the Sharp Mind Show, episode 55. I'm Nate, your host, the Fit Future MD. Make sure you shop at Intercell.com. Pick you out a cool, inspirational t shirt today. All right, so um, give me 1 second. Kind of lightish above me. Anyway, all right, so scrolling through TikTok today, and I just learned about a thing called a hush ring. And apparently, a hush ring is when you've been dating someone for many years, 5+ years, and then you get married, right? Um, so apparently, a hush ring is to hush up your family telling you to get married when you really don't feel like you should be married to that person, right? So this, made me start thinking about obviously my relationship because we dated for 10+ years before getting married, right? And for us, or for me, the reason it took so long is because I tried to go to medical school and ended up with a lot of debt. And also, uh, you weren't in a place that you thought you should be financially to deserve to marry someone, right? On my side of things, and so basically for me it was financial stress or imbalance, right, that caused that not to happen. And so the number one reason that people get divorced is because of financial stress, right, because of financial issues. So now keep this in mind that most places are two income households now, right? So you got both parents working. You got the idea of, you know, traditional relationships where, the woman takes care of the stuff inside the house, takes care of children, raises children, but is then also now being asked to uh, work a 40-hour week um, and do all that stuff, right? And so you can see where that would cause a strain in the relationship because trust me, if you're working 40 hours a week and taking care of children, like that is very tiring, right? You're going to be very tired, emotionally tired. And then you're expected to all of a sudden, kids go to bed, you switch and you have romantic time with your partner. Like, you're going to see that when you're chronically tired like that, you're not going to have those intimate moments anymore, right? So, and another thing is that after you've been together a long time, you have separate assets, right? You didn't bring the assets together and early and build those assets together. You have separate assets. So then all of a sudden you have to uh, pull those assets together, whether the woman changes her last name or whatever, you put everybody's name on the same bank account, that kind of stuff. All that stuff is stressful, right? And so when one side or the other feels chronically responsible for that, you can break trust, right? So that's when you stop telling somebody, oh, you know, we're over on the credit card this month, or we spent too much money this month, or um, you're holding a balance on credit cards now, or, whatever. Um, but here is the big solution for all this, right? So if you know something about somebody and it bothers you before you're married, 10 years into the relationship or 20 years into the relationship, that problem's not going to go away, right? That, like, whatever that problem might be. whether it's degenerate gambling or drinking or smoking weed, whatever else that could chronically bother you. Like if this person, is a gamer at 25 years old, at 35 years old, they're still going to be gaming, right? And if gaming bothers you, then, obviously that's going to be a problem in your marriage, right? So you have to take care of that stuff. And if not being a gamer is going to be a deal breaker for that person, then, right. So, then you're going to have problems as well. Right. But so the way you fix this is you come together as a couple, right? Number one reason is finances, right? So you come together as a couple and you say, this is how we're going to live, right? So for us, we always said that we would only have bills enough to live on one income. So even when our income was $11 an hour and not even having full time, we still only lived on that $11 an hour, one side. If the other person was working, we had all that as extra money, right? So and we honestly at that time we were doing that because the economy was so uncertain. Like you didn't know if you were going to have your $11 an hour job anymore. Like, you know, um, and the risk of getting fired. So then you always had enough money to live just in case, right? So, and most people aren't living that way now. Most people are, whatever their income is together, they're going all the way up to that income, right? But you choose to do that together, right? So you put everything together. Your bank accounts are together. All the money comes into one account, that kind of thing. So keep that in mind. You make goals together, right? So um, you say, oh, well, I don't have any retirement. Well, guess what? We're going to save for your retirement together. Like I'm going to be putting, $100 a month, or every holiday I put in a certain amount of money into your retirement account, where we're actually growing rich together at the same time, right? Stuff like that can um, definitely change things. And then the biggest thing I'll say is that, I'm going to talk about mental health here for a second. There's going to be highs and lows for each person. Not everybody's going to be at the same level all the time. There's going to be some times where one partner takes on a lot of the load and the other partner's not doing as much because of mental issues or whatever, right? Something's going on, they're physically sick, whatever. Um, but just know that, talk about that, say, hey, I'm having to take a lot of the load right now. That's okay. When we get you better, you can come back up and take this, and this off my plate, that kind of thing. So the big thing is that when you go into a marriage, you just have to realize that we're in this together. We are each other's best friends. Um, Honestly, if there's anybody you really want to hang out with other than your person, then you really probably don't like that person that much, right? So um, keep that in mind. Obviously, if you ask all these questions before you get married, is more likely to be successful. And even if you do everything right, you still might not be successful. Um, and then so you end up on a murder spree or on a murder mystery or something. But that's beside the point. Obviously, that's a joke. But that's what I have to say about this hush ring. Let me know what you think in the comments below. All right, so the Blue Jays take game one of the World Series. Yasavidge starts game one. I think he's the youngest, or one of the youngest ever, to start game one of a World Series. So that's pretty freaking sweet. Unfortunately, only went 4 innings and gave up some runs. But Addison, I thought it was Addison Barger. I think it's his last name, Barger. Addison Barger. Who pitch hit in this game, Addison Barger, who pitch hit in this game, hits a grand slam to give the Blue Jays game one in the World Series. Ohtanis 2-run home run couldn't keep the Dodgers in it. So is this expected since the Blue Jays are at home, or is it a definitive sign for the World Series that the Blue Jays may dominate this World Series? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. All right. This episode is brought to you by London and the Googly Goo, which is my wife's children's book. If you got children, nieces, or nephews of your own, be sure to check out London and the Googly Goo. It's got a great moral, and we hope you enjoy it. Available on Amazon. All right. So, in life coaching today, Jessica says, we've got $80,000. Jessica says, we got $80,000 in student loans and just bought a house. Should we sell off the house to pay off the debt or grind it out? All right. So, in my opinion, you don't sell your house to pay off student loans. In my opinion, you have to live somewhere it is more beneficial long term to have purchased a home than to not have. Now, we are in a weird financial time where the price of housing is very high compared to rents, right? But this is going to adjust, right? If they don't bring the interest rates down to sub 5%, right? It's going to be between 4 and 5. The price of rents are going to increase because of the price of debt on the places that you rent, right? So, I personally would not sell my home to pay off student loans. Now, I've definitely thought about this. Obviously, me being someone that was $300,000 in student loan debt, I've definitely thought about selling our house, which has $200,000 in equity, to pay off my private student loans, which is about $140,000, right? Because obviously, me working for the government, I get the federal ones to be forgiven after 10 years, but the private ones I'll have to pay off, and they are $1,000 a month, right? So, and that was refinanced to 4%, right? So it was going to be like a crazy number, but luckily I got those refinanced. But I've absolutely thought about this. And the reason that we don't do this is because for what we're paying now, right? So 10 years ago, when we moved to the beach, we paid a certain amount of money to live at the beach. It's $900 a month. Our mortgage now is not that much higher than that was 10 years ago, right? We've basically locked in at a very, very low rate. If we went and got this same 3-bedroom, 2-bath in an apartment or another house, we would be paying double what we're paying now, right? Which is basically that $1,000 a month that I'm paying to student loans. So if I got rid of the $1,000 a month, got rid of the house, had to go to apartment, I'd be paying the same exact thing to not have home ownership, right? So that's the reason that we don't sell the house to pay off student loans. However, there is a place where there is a time right now where housing, right now, renting is cheaper than purchasing a new home currently right now today, right? So if we bought this home currently right now today, it had $200,000 in equity in it, it would be an absolute no-brainer, right, to sell the house. So depends on when you bought, but I would personally not sell the house if I had 200,000 in equity. If you need access to that equity or you want to, you know, you can do other things, but I would not sell the house. Let me know what you guys would think. Would you sell the house to pay off your student loans? All right. And so the last thing of the day, which is the quote of the day, it says, rock bottom isn't a punishment, it's permission to rebuild stronger. And so when you think about the world of construction, right, everything has to have a solid foundation, right? So if you started up here and all of a sudden you end up down here, right? It may be because you need to build a strong foundation or something, right? So I think about this when I went to med school in the Caribbean. I thought I was going to Med 1 in the Caribbean, but I was actually going into what's called a remedial program that they had accepted me into. They didn't accept me into Med 1 right away. And I basically needed to learn how to study, right? I had never had to study before in my life, really. I would go to class, listen, take notes, and that would be enough for me to not necessarily make A's all the time, but, for the most part, in most classes, I was going to be making an A or a B, right? And that was just going to class, listening, and writing down a few notes. So when I actually had to learn how to study, I had no idea how to study, right? And so I just tried to rely on my high IQ to learn quickly. And obviously that didn't work the first go around. Was able to finally pick it up the second go around and was off to the races. But if you don't have that, basically the point is if you don't have that foundation, being able to build the building higher and higher is not going to work, right? You're going to fall down again. So if for some reason you've hit rock bottom again in your life, just remember there's something down there at the bottom that you need to learn, right? And so, I mean, just this morning, I thought of something that is $1 billion idea that I'm personally having a problem with right now. So when you're at the bottom, you can kind of think of the best ideas because you actually are down in where everybody else is and having the problems that they're having, and that could be a problem that you solve, and all of a sudden you become the billionaire, right? So keep that in mind. I'm Nate, and I'm a life coach. If you're trying to rebuild at rock bottom, hit me up for life coaching. Sign up in the description below. Shop at instacell.com. Pick you up a cool inspirational t-shirt. And buy my wife's book, London and the Goo Goo. And we'll see you in the next one. Peace.